Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 63rd episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. Last month was Halloween time, and this month is the month before Christmas movies start popping off. So we won't waste any time. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll give you my top 5 watches of the month again. So let's get into everything I watched in November. Bottoms 2023, directed by Emma Seligman. Now, I think it was not last month, but the month before, I did watch Shiva Baby with Rachel Sennett and Emma Seligman directed that. So I like that film. I really like Rachel Sennett. So I was excited to see Bottoms, and they both wrote this, and I gotta say, it was freaking great. It was hilarious. It's an interesting, weird one though, man. There's some weirdness to it for sure. But overall, man, it was the high school movie I kind of been craving for a while. We haven't had a good high school funny movie like this, really since I don't know, Booksmart. So it's been a little bit. It's been a few years. So I was glad this came out the way it did. So I would definitely recommend this to anyone. This is a good one. Check it out. I'm gonna give Bottoms a 7.9 out of 10. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, 1969, directed by Peter R. Hunt. Now, I've seen a handful of Bond movies, but I gotta admit, guys, I haven't seen all of them. And I was recommended this one by a huge Bond fan. And I must say, it was pretty good. I had a good time with it. I believe this was the only one he did, which is crazy. This guy wasn't even an actor. I can't even think of his name right now. I'm sorry. But it's a pretty good movie. As far as Bond movies go, though, I mean, I wouldn't say it's one of the best. I typically I kind of like the Daniel Craig Bonds. That's just me. I know a lot of people like a lot of the older Bonds, but I thought Daniel Craig was awesome. But still, if you're a Bond fan, obviously I could recommend this. Action fans, I mean, it is old. Some of the effects are a little, they're dated, but it worked for the times. So I'm gonna give On Her Majesty's Secret Service a 7 out of 10. Through a Glass Darkly, 1961, directed by Ingmar Bergman. Now, guys, you've heard me talk about Ingmar Bergman before on this channel. He is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, I don't know, he might be my favorite director. This movie was incredible, about a girl on an island and with a few of her family members, and she is losing her mind, and they're all trying to help her in one way or another. Another great Ingmar film. He's a legend. He's incredible. All his films, I mean, even his lesser films smack hard, but this is another classic banger from him. I mean, I could recommend this to anyone. This is one of the great filmmakers of all time. I'm gonna give Through a Glass Darkly an 8.2 out of 10. Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion, 1997, directed by David Merkin. Now, this film, I've been wanting to see this movie for a lot of years. It has a pretty strong cult following. I love Mira Sorvino, love Lisa Kudrow, and they had great chemistry in this movie. This is a fun little, late 90s, goofy little fun time movie. It's about two girls who are going to go to their 10-year high school reunion, but they're embarrassed because they feel like they haven't accomplished anything in life. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people in that age bracket can right now could relate to this movie because there's tons of people who just feel like they haven't done what they felt like they should have done to this point. And it's a great film. It's a good lost in your 20s film. I could definitely recommend this to 90s fans, comedies fans. I can't say it's one for everyone, but if you like goofy 90s movies, you'll definitely like it. It'll be right up your alley. I'm gonna give Romy Michelle's High School Reunion a 7.2 out of 10. Gremlins 2, 1990, directed by Joe Dante. Now, Gremlins 2 is definitely not as good as Gremlins 1. Gremlins 2, it's a fun movie. I like all the different gremlins they have in it. It's got some weirdness, some goofiness, some grossness to it. Um, it's still, even though it's 1990, it still feels got that 80s feel to it. But it's definitely not as good as Gremlins 1. It's a decent watch. If you're a big Gremlins fan, I'd say watch it. But unfortunately, this movie lacks a lot of Gizmo, man. Gizmo was like barely in this movie. Now I'd seen this movie before. It's just been a long time, but wanted to rewatch it though. So I watched Gremlins 1 last year around Christmas, and I mean it was decent. I can't say it's for everyone. I would really only recommend it if you're a fan of the original. I'm gonna give Gremlins 2 a 6.5 out of 10. Coming Home, 1978, directed by Hal Ashby. Coming Home, man, what a great Vietnam War film about the effects war has on man. Starring probably my favorite actress of all time, Jane Fonda, and an actor I don't always love, but I absolutely loved in this movie, John Voight. John Voight given I believe, an Oscar-winning performance. I think he won for this. Yeah, I think he did, and it's well deserved. He was incredible in this film. This film, it follows a woman who's married to a guy who's in the Vietnam War, and while he's gone, she's helping out disabled veterans at a home, and she ends up befriending one, John Voight, and things get a little crazy from there. This is a film I could absolutely recommend to anyone. It's an incredible watch. Had a great time with it. Um, I'm going to give Coming Home an 8.2 out of 10. The Big Short, 2015, directed by Adam McKay. Now, Adam McKay, we know him for some of his comedies, but he's branched out quite a bit in the last few years and made a lot of different type of films. Big Short is a film about the 2008 market crash that put us in the recession back then. I was alive for this. I remember it. I was a teenager. Things did get crazy around that time, and this film kind of show. It's about someone who predicted it way before it happened, and no one really did anything about it. And this film was very good. It was funny. It was very funny. And I like the way they broke a lot of things down. For those who don't who aren't into this kind of stuff, they made it easy to follow and fun to watch. Get a brilliant performance from my man Christian Bale. Get a brilliant performance from Steve Carell. Get a funny performance from Ryan Gosling. Get a nice heartfelt performance from Brad Pitt. So you got a lot of big heavy players in this movie, big ensemble cast, but it all worked out really well. I thought it was a great film. I would recommend this movie to anybody, especially if you're into, the politics of the world. So I would give The Big Short an 8 out of 10. A Summer with Monica, 1953, directed by Ingmar Bergman. Now, as you can see, this is already the second Bergman on this list, and it won't be the last. I'm going back watching some of his older films, and this is another classic, one of his really early films. It was a showcase for his girlfriend at the time, who's the lead in this, and she's incredible. She's actually in quite a bit of his films, even after they broke up. He tends to do that. This film's about a guy who meets a young girl, and they end up going and spending summer on the island together, and he ends up getting her pregnant. Things kind of go crazy from there. Absolutely brilliant film. You can see early on where Ingmar's style was and how it was going to grow and develop. And, early on, this guy had a spark. So, another classic for him. Another one I would recommend to anyone, especially, if you want to challenge yourself and the films you watch. I am going to give Summer with Monica an 8.2 out of 10. Spies in Disguise, 2019, directed by Nick Bruno and Troy Quane. Spies in Disguise, animated film. You got some voice acting from Will Smith and Tom Holland. This film is about a spy who gets turned into a bird. Yes, that's what this movie's about. And as dumb as that may sound, it's actually not that bad of a film. It was decent. Ah, there's a lot of emotions that stirred up in me when I saw the way this film was going, which I am not going to discuss, but it did slightly put me off from this film, but the film itself wasn't bad. I actually really enjoyed the voice acting from Tom Holland in this versus what I heard from him in Onward. I didn't like his character in Onward, and I didn't like how he voiced him, but I really thought he pulled it out well in this one. Um, if you got kids, I could recommend this. It's a decent film. It's not the best animated film. It's not the worst one. I would give Spies in Disguise a 6.2 out of 10. The Killer, 2023, directed by David Fincher. All right, now we all know I'm a Fincher fan. He's one of the best directors, and the lead in this movie is one of my favorite actors, Michael Fassbender, my guy. So they're pairing up. Of course, I'm gonna watch this. This movie's badass. I really liked it, but I gotta say off the rip, it's not one everybody will like. It's a slow burner. It's very detail oriented and it's very meticulous in what it does and what it's setting out to do. It's based on a French comic, so keep that in mind when you watch it, but the payoff is well worth the slow start and build up to it. But I think it's absolutely fascinating. You get a great soundtrack with filled with Smith songs and some good music. So, and man, you can see Michael Fassbender doing, you know, probably the most action we've seen him do since playing Magneto. He's going hard in this movie, man. It's pretty cool. I gotta say, I enjoyed it. I I gotta say, I can't recommend this to anyone, but if you are a Fincher fan, a Fassbender fan, definitely watch this. I'm gonna give The Killer a 7.8 out of 10. Monster, 2003, directed by Patty Jenkins. Now, Monster, this is a real life story here. I'm sorry, I cannot remember the darn woman's name that Charlize Theron plays. Man, her name is escaping me, but right now I just can't look it up. We got to keep it moving. But she plays this real life lady from back in the 80s who was actually going around doing the things that she does in this movie. It's about it's an LGBT story about an older woman who ends up dating a young girl and they kind of go on a little runaway adventure together. And the older lady's doing some things that the younger one doesn't know about. And Christina Ricci plays the other chick, and her and Charlize Theron have incredible chemistry in this movie. This movie's incredibly heartwarming, and I gotta say, I'm not the biggest Charlize fan. She's okay. I think she's a bit overrated as an actress. She was absolutely incredible in this movie. She definitely deserved this Oscar. The physical transformation, I mean, you couldn't even tell it was her. I was very impressed, very blown away. Possibly one of the best performances maybe ever. I can't even lie and say it might be. I mean, for that reason alone, this movie is worth watching. It's a great film though, and it's a true story, and it is a heartfelt film, but it does make you think on morals and ethics. So I'm going to give Monster an 8.3 out of 10. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. 2022, directed by Helena Rain. Okay, I've been on my Rachel Sennett stuff all month. I love this girl. She is incredible. She's funny. She's amazing. I adore her. This movie, she is also great in. And the one chick from The Hate You Give is in this, and she plays a good role too. This movie was. This is what I liked about this film is this film gives me hope for the future of horror, and also kind of makes me sad for the future of horror because I do think that in the future, horror movies are going to start taken more of the approach this film took to it. And I don't even know how horror even you want to call this film. It's a horror film, yeah. But it is funny. I can't lie. It's funny. It's got a style to it. And the screenplay is quite clever in a lot of ways. But there are a ton of issues with it as well. And I know this is probably the direction, like, when I'm in my 50s, this is gonna be the norm for horror style films, and I'm just gonna probably miss slashers and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I love elevated horror films, they're some of the best, but I still got a soft spot for older horror films. But, let me just wrap this up. Bodies, 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 I couldn't recommend it to everyone, but I would recommend it to the younger kids, any younger guys watching this, younger guys and gals, early 20s, late teens. This is probably your type of movie. It's something you'd be able to relate to a lot. So, you know, I don't know, but I did like it. I did like it. So, with all that said, excuse me, I'm gonna give Bodies, Bodies, Bodies a 7.1 out of 10. Fantastic Planet, 1973, directed by Renee Lalo. Okay, this movie is an animated French language sci-fi film, and it's about this race of aliens who essentially, I guess they kind of enslave a much smaller group of beings, and they're called ohms, but they're humans essentially. And this film is really um, a play on a lot of things that have happened throughout history, slavery, the Holocaust, a whole bunch of events that have gone on throughout time. This movie is a reflection on in the form of a like 70-minute cartoon because it's not a long movie. I think it's maybe 75 minutes. Um, this movie was absolutely incredible. The score, wow, absolutely beautiful. The animation was incredible, and the story was incredible. And I absolutely love this film. Um, as weird as this is an art house animated film. This ain't one you put on for your kids. It's R rated, I believe. It's pretty. It's got some stuff in it. Um, but I would have to say everyone should watch this movie. Everyone needs to start watching more films like this. So I'm going to give Fantastic Planet a 9 out of 10. And it is one of my top 5 of the month. Mystic River, 2003, directed by Clint Eastwood. Mystic River, man, I don't know how I missed this film when it came out, 20 years ago, but I did somehow. And this is a great film. Getting all-star performances from Sean Penn and Tim Robbins. And you know what? Kevin Bacon even gives us a nice little performance. And I'm not the biggest Kevin Bacon guy, but he was good in this movie. This film is about a guy whose daughter gets murdered, and him and his boys and the cops are trying to uncover the mystery. And my God, it keeps you on your toes. And you're solving this case with these guys, and you're trying to figure stuff out on your own. And it's a fun time. I could definitely recommend this to anyone. I'm gonna give Mystic River an 8 out of 10. X-Men First Class, 2011, directed by Matthew Vaughn. Okay, I seen X-Men First Class back when it came out, but I hadn't seen it since then, and I wanted to watch it. And yeah, it's still as fire as it was back in the day. I love this movie. Um, something about non-MCU Marvel movies just hit a little different. I don't know. Uh, First Class was awesome. Get an all-star performance from my man Michael Fassbender, from Jennifer Lawrence, from James McVoy. You getting some great great performances, fun time, good action, period piece, set back in the day. It's got great metaphors on things happening in the world. So, I could obviously recommend this to anyone, especially if you're a Marvel fan, superhero, comic books, whatever. I'm gonna give X Men First Class an 8 out of 10. Floating Weeds, 1959, directed by Yashijiro Ozu. Y'all know I've been on my Ozu stuff lately if you've been watching. Ozu is obviously one of the best directors of all time. And another banger from him, Floating Weeds, is about an actor who travels with a troupe and he ends up in an old town that he has left his son in, but this son thinks he is his uncle. And I mean, it pretty much just goes from there. It's a great story, fun times, funny as always from Ozu. Not a lot of crazy drinking like you always see in some of his other films, but it's still a great time. I could recommend this movie to absolutely anyone, a good family drama. I'm going to give Floating Weeds an 8.4 out of 10. X Men Days of Future Past, 2014, directed by Bryan Singer. Okay, remember we were just talking about First Class? Days of Future Past, probably even better than that. Um, a great follow up to First Class. So fun. You get Wolverine joining the gang in this one, so he obviously is going to make it a little more fun. You get I think the star of the show though is still Michael Fassbender. You get Mystique really going hard in this one. This movie's incredible. I had a really great time with it. Um, I mean, I can't say anything more about it. It's just great. So if you like superhero stuff, it's just a fun time action movie, great escapism. I'm going to give Days of Future Past an 8.1 out of 10. Entourage, the movie, 2015, directed by Doug Ellen. Now, I just watched all of Entourage. It is not my first, second, or third time. This is one of my favorite TV shows. I watched it, back when it was running, and I've watched it a few times since then. I got all these things. They're some of my favorites. I love Entourage. So, the movie for me is just an extended long episode. And that's fine with me because I love the show. So I do like the movie. I think it's fun. I don't watch it like a movie. I watch it like an extended episode. But if you're thinking about the movie in terms of what you want from a movie, you're not getting that from this movie. So Entourage movie is for the Entourage fans. I would not recommend Entourage to you if you've never watched the show, if you didn't like the show. If you don't watch Entourage, you shouldn't watch this. You're not even gonna understand anything. It's gonna be there's so much inside stuff in it that, if you didn't watch the show, there's a lot of jokes that are just gonna go right over your head, and you're like, this movie wasn't even funny. But someone who watched it sitting next to you, watched the show, they be laughing their ass off, and you'd be like, I don't even understand why you think this is so funny. So if you are an Entourage fan and you never watched the movie, definitely watch the movie. If you aren't an Entourage fan, you never watched Entourage, don't watch this movie. But I'm going to give Entourage, the movie, I'm going to grade it as if it was an episode, not a film. So if I was grading this as a film or as an episode, I would give it a 6.7 out of 10. Good Burger 2, 2023, directed by Phil Trail. All right, guys, so we got to talk about this movie a little bit. Good Burger 2 is it's a movie. Okay, so obviously the original Good Burger is a classic. I grew up with that. It's one of my all-time favorite kid movies from my childhood. I've watched it several times. Good Burger 1 has this magic to it that just can only be captured once. Although I do think Kel and Keenan reprise their roles nicely. Kel's makeup looks weird and it makes him look strange and it was throwing me off. They tried to recycle a lot of the stuff from the original that worked, but of course they didn't do it nearly as well and it fell flat and they gave weird backstories to a lot of the existing characters, and some of the new characters kinda sucked, and overall, it just wasn't it. It wasn't it. It wasn't a sequel that we really needed. You know, if you're a fan of the original, I don't even know if I could recommend it because it might just piss you off, but if you got nothing to do on a Sunday afternoon, you know, it's something to watch. With that said, though, it's not nearly as bad as you think it should be. I'll say that. It's watchable, you know, it's not at no point was I like, "God, when is this over?" It's a short movie, so it's fine. I'll give Good Burger 2 a 5.3 out of 10. American Honey, 2016, directed by Andrea Arnold. Now, I've been wanting to see this movie for some years and just never got to it. I enjoyed this film a lot. It stars this young girl. Oh, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry, but Shia LaBeouf's in it too. And it's about this girl who meets this guy and ends up going on the road with him and his crew selling magazines, and they get into all kinds of stuff on the way, and it's just a fun time. It's a slice of life kind of film. It reminds me of like a Sean Baker type of film. Pretty good movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit actually. It's a little bit long, but for whatever reason, I feel like it needs that length. Even though I know most people would probably disagree with me on that, but I do think it needs that length. But it is clocking in at close to 3 hours. But I gotta say, there was enough in it they kept it on edge to make it flow nicely. A lot of interesting stuff. I was shocked at a lot of scenes, but it definitely has a slice of life vibe to it. I gotta say, Sean Baker was probably looking at this movie while he was editing Florida Project, but it's great film. I did enjoy it. I would recommend this to all the art house indie people out there for sure. Right up your alley. I'm gonna give American Honey a 7.9 out of 10. The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, 2007, directed by Andrew Dominic. Now, this film here is about the homie Jesse James. Now I'm not sure. I think this might be adapted from a novel. Don't quote me. And I'm not sure how accurate any of this film is to real life or anything like that. I don't know the history of this story, but I do know that this film was good. My man Brad Pitt, love this guy so much. Woof. Honestly, Brad Pitt is probably he might be my favorite actor. I'm not even sure. And it's not because I think he's the most talented. The dude just has some charisma about him that no other actor has. It's just something about the dude. He glows. Um, but he gives a great performance in this. You get a good performance from Casey Affleck, who I believe got a Oscar nomination. It's a good screenplay. It's a vibey kind of. It's more revisionist style though. It's not a shoot 'em up like you would think it is. But I had a good time with this. I could recommend this to anyone, especially Western fans for sure. I'm gonna give the Assassination of Jesse James a 7.8 out of 10. The Celebration, 1998, directed by Thomas Vinterberg. Okay, this film was a part of Thomas Vinterberg and Lars von Trier's their little company they have. I cannot think of the name of it right off the top of my head. Excuse me, but it's one of those company. Their company has all these rules about what you can do to make a film, and there was a ton of rules. And this is a very minimalist film. And gosh darn it, this is one of the best movies I've ever watched. Thomas Vinterberg is a master filmmaker. You know, he gave us The Hunt and Another Round, banger after banger. He is very good. Honestly, this may be his best movie. I don't know. The Hunt is really good, but this might be it. This movie put tears in my eyes, and it also had me laughing my tail off. It's about a family who all go back to the parents' house to celebrate. Um, I believe it's the dad. They're celebrating the dad for I forgot what it is. Something that's going on. I don't. Is it his birthday? I think it's his birthday. Something's going on. It might not be his birthday. I don't remember exactly what they're celebrating because you lose sight of that fast once things start going on in this film. This movie was funny, heartfelt. It was raw. It was offensive, very offensive. Um, but I absolutely adored it every minute of it. I thought it was incredible. Like I said, it put tears in my eyes. I loved it. I thought it was great. And Thomas Vinterberg is absolutely incredible. He is one of the more underrated filmmakers of our time. We need to make sure we're watching his films, guys. So I would definitely recommend this to anyone. And this is also a top 5 of the month for me. And I'm going to give the celebration a 9.4 out of 10. Carnival of Souls, 1962, directed by Herc Harvey. This is a fun little old school horror film. It's about a young woman. She's a organist, and she ends up getting in a car crash with her friend, where they both should have died, but she somehow lives. And after that, man, her life just starts spiraling out of control. She's seeing things, and she thinks she's being followed, and it's really affecting her life. And it's pretty cool. It's very interesting. Some very cool images in here. I had a great time with this film. Uh, if you're a deep horror fan, definitely can recommend this to you. I'm going to give Carnival of Souls a 7.3 out of 10. After Sun, 2022, directed by Charlotte Wells. Okay, now I know After Sun has been a darling film in the film community for the last year, and I have to say I don't think it's as good as everyone else thought it was, but it was good. I just was I went into this because it was so talked about and hyped up. I went into this expecting a lot more, and I was a touch underwhelmed. Having said all that, this was still a powerful film with two great performances from its leads. This film is about a man who is highly depressed, and him and his daughter go on a cruise, or not even a cruise. I think they get away to a resort, and they end up learning a lot about each other while on this trip. And the father, he is starting to things are going on with him, and you see it coming out more and more and more. And I gotta say, I really did think the dad gave a great performance. I think he got an Oscar nom, which right after I watched it, I was like, I don't know if that was an Oscar nominated worthy performance. But then the more I thought about it, I think it is, because he definitely made me feel what he was supposed to be feeling far before the film told you itself. So I gotta give him that credit. So After Sun, it is more of a slice of life type of film. You can tell this director's was watching films like American Honey and Sean Baker films and stuff like that. But I did think it had a powerful message overall. I do think it's a film that everyone should watch, but I don't think it's gonna blow everyone away. It didn't blow me away. I went into this expecting this to be the best film I watched of that night, and it was not. I don't even think it was second or third, but it was good. So having said that, I'm going to give After Sun a 7.7 out of 10. Rollerball, 1975, directed by Norman Jewison. I've been on my James Caan stuff, as you guys will see more as I keep speaking. Rollerball is dope. I had a great time with Rollerball. A lot of people hated on it upon its release. I don't even think it's necessarily aged that well with fans, but I had a great time with it. It's a cool sci-fi sports movie where it just kind of shows us how corrupt you know monopolies and things like that can be in our society. But as the sport itself, it's fun, man. It's like Quidditch on skates meets like football. It's wild. It's super good time. I had a great time with that. I thought James Caan gave a great performance. So I will recommend this to sport movie fans, sci-fi fans, people who like political messages in their films. So I'm gonna give Rollerball a 7.3 out of 10. Love Jones, 1997, directed by Theodore Witcher. Unfortunately, this is the only movie this director ever made, but at least he made a good one for his only one. Love Jones, starring Lorenz Tate and Nia Long, two of the darling black actors of the '90s. They give two great performances in this film. It's a black rom com, and it's got a lot of style to it, and it's really cool. I like the way they depict all the characters in this movie and how they're represented, and I like their interests and hobbies. I thought it was a really cool depiction of black people. It's a fun time. I think the love story itself, though, has a lot of issues that, if you're asking me, as the way things went, I don't think the movie would have ended that way if this was real life. But that's just me. That's just me. In my own opinion, it's still a great film. And if you're a rom com fan, I would definitely check this out. Honestly, this is a rom com most people can get down with, even like people who don't like them that much, because it's got a real rawness to it. It's not cheesy and goofy. So I'm gonna give Love Jones a 7.5 out of 10. The Prince of Egypt, 1998, directed by a whole bunch of dudes. Now, this movie follows the story of Moses, and I'm not going to tell you guys anything about this movie. I want to talk about the animation. This movie, 1998, it's animated so beautifully, man. It's one of the coolest animated films. Voice acting is good. Val Kilmer in there, so that's always nice. I love the vibe and aesthetic of this movie. The story is cool and it's great too, but for me, I like all the animated filmmaking techniques that were used in this, the music and everything else. The story itself is cool, but I was very into the art direction and things like that as far as this movie went. But it is probably one of the better two-dimensional animated films of all time. I had a great time with the Prince of Egypt. Recommend this to anyone. I would give The Prince of Egypt a 7.8 out of 10. Smiles of a Summer Night, 1955, directed by Ingmar Bergman. All right, guys. If you can see my face, I am smiling because I loved this film. Early Ingmar Bergman film. Like I said earlier, like 3 times already, this dude's one of the best of all time. I know you're sick of hearing me say it, but he is. And this movie is one of the reasons why. I absolutely love this film. Yeah, I adored it. Super, super funny, cool story, great style, and you can really see his style starting to form more and more with these early '50s Ingmar movies. Because once he gets to the '60s, that's when he just takes off. That's when he made all the ones that people consider his best. I personally consider this one of his best films. This is a top 5 Ingmar for me. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people won't agree with me, but I don't care. I loved this film. And I'm not even going to tell you guys what this film's about. Just watch it. I'm going to give Smiles of a Summer Night a 9.5 out of 10. And I am going to say this is a top 5 of the month. Brian's Song, 1971, directed by Buzz Kulik. Okay, like I said, I've been on my James Caan stuff. I've been watching a lot of James Caan movies, and this is not the last James Caan movie I'm going to talk about. Brian's Song was a TV movie about Gale Sayers, the running back for the Bears back in the day in the 60s. He was a beast, played by Billy D. Williams, and his white teammate, um, played by James Caan. But Brian's Song, it's about these two guys. white guy, black guy back in the day, and they form a real unique friendship. And this is a true story, and it is very heartfelt, heart touching. And they say this is the ultimate guy cry movie. I'm here to report this is the ultimate guy cry movie. I cried like a little baby watching this movie. I'm not gonna lie. And I cried for about 5 to 10 minutes after just thinking. Um, for a TV movie, I gotta say it slaps, man. It's short. It's only like an hour and 10 minutes or something. It's a really short movie, but I mean, hey, it has feature length quality all over it. So I'm gonna give Brian's song a 7.5 out of 10. The Last Boy Scout, 1991, directed by Tony Scott. The Last Boy Scout, Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. Interesting combo, but hey, they had nice chemistry. It's about uh, an old Secret Service guy who's kind of down and out, and his marriage is falling apart, and he's just doing odd jobs to make ends meet, and he ends up getting a weird job, and he gets paired up with Damon Wayans. Shane Black wrote this, so that can give you a clue on how it goes. Fun little early 90s, buddy action movie. It's not going to knock your socks off, but it was a good time and it's definitely worth watching. So you can recommend it to whoever. I'm going to give The Last Boy Scout a 6.8 out of 10. Police Academy, 1984, directed by Hugh Wilson. Police Academy, so I'd seen this way when I was young, but I hadn't seen it in a long time. So definitely wanted to revisit it after watching like The Naked Gun and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I know everyone loves Police Academy, but it ain't that good. I didn't like it that much. It had its moments. I really liked the one black dude who makes all the sound effects. He was funny. He was honestly probably the best part of the movie. The movie isn't bad. It has its moments. There's some funny scenes in it. It has its moments. But overall, it's not something I'd be running to watch again. Um, if you're an 80s comedy fan and you like really goofy comedies, I could recommend this to you, but I don't know. I can't see somebody like 21, 22 years old watching this and feeling like it's a classic. So I'm gonna give Police Academy a 6 out of 10. Quiz Show, 1994, directed by Robert Redford. Robert Redford, man. I'm gonna talk about him a little bit later, but Robert Redford, great director, great actor. Um, and this is definitely one of his best films. Quiz Show is about I believe this is a real scandal. It's about the company. I don't remember what news company it was. I think it was NBC or something. They were running this quiz show, which is like a trivia game show, and they got caught kind of fixing the games. And it's this movie's about that. But what this movie does great is it really puts this importance and intensifies this situation that really doesn't mean a damn thing. Like, at the end of the day, this movie's about a game show being fixed. Like, that really ain't that important in the grand scheme of anything. It's like, who really, at the end of the day, who really cares? Like, but this movie makes you give a damn while you're watching it. You get some great performances from John Turturro, Ray Fiennes, like, bro, John Turturro was incredible in this movie, and I know a lot of critics didn't like his performance at the time and said it was too over the top. I thought he was perfect. I love this movie. I would recommend this to anyone. So I'm gonna give Quiz Show an 8 out of 10. L'Enfant or The Child, 2005, directed by the Dardennes. This is a French movie about this couple. They are like kind of like grifters, and they have a baby, and the boyfriend gets the bright idea to take the baby while the mother isn't around and sell it. And his life spirals out of control because of it, as it should. So it was a good film. I enjoyed it. I thought it had a nice little impact to it, and I did like how it ended. But overall, I didn't think it was, the best film ever. It gave me like, if you ever seen Rosetta or like Vagabond, it reminds me of those films, which both of those films are good, but I don't think they're masterpieces like some other people do. But this movie was good as well. But same boat. I thought it was good, but not a masterpiece. But I would recommend this, to anyone, especially if you got a soft spot for mothers and children. This one will really make you mad. So I'll give they Font a 7.5 out of 10. Johnny Guitar, 1954, directed by Nicholas Ray. This movie was badass, bro. You got Joan Crawford in a western holding people up with guns. Yo, it was cool. This is a fun movie about a lady who runs a successful bar and casino, and these people were trying to drive her out, and she ain't having it. And hey, this is just a good time Western, man. If you're a Western fan, I could absolutely recommend this to you. This film was kind of close to making my top 5 of the month. I absolutely love this movie. Uh, I'm a Western guy though, so if you're not a Western person, this may not be for you. But if you like Westerns, definitely watch this. I will give Johnny Guitar an 8 out of 10. Caddyshack, 1980, directed by Harold Ramis. All right, bros. I know all y'all already know about Caddyshack. Caddyshack is a film that I am embarrassed to admit that I thought I'd seen, but I realized I'd never seen it before until I watched it. So, Caddyshack, it's funny. It's good. It was definitely a pioneering film for 80s comedy, like, leading up to like the John Candy stuff in the mid to late 80s and all that stuff. So Caddyshack definitely was a tentpole film, kind of like Animal House was. Animal House is a better film than this, but I did enjoy Caddyshack. But I don't think it's as great as a lot of people may make it out to be. I think learning about how it was made and all that went on while it was made is far more interesting than the film itself. But I gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite Chevy Chase performances. I could recommend Caddyshack to 80s fans or even like late 70s fans. So I would give Caddyshack a 6.9 out of 10. A Taxi Driver, 2017, directed by Jang Hoon. Now, this is a Song Kang Ho film, and he's absolutely one of my favorite Korean actors. He's incredible. I watch this dude all the time. This movie was great. True story about a cab driver who kind of risked his life to spread awareness about some crazy stuff going on in his country. Uh, and that's all I'm going to say about this movie because you should watch it. It's very, very touching, and it's got some cool action scenes. It's funny. It's got a lot going for it. So I'm going to give A Taxi Driver a 7.9 out of 10. The Little Mermaid, 1989, directed by John Musker and John Clements. All right, The Little Mermaid. It's a classic. We all know about The Little Mermaid. I don't have to tell you what it's about. So I'm just gonna go ahead and jump to my score. I'm going to give The Little Mermaid an 8 out of 10. The Sting, 1973, directed by George Roy Hill. The Sting, man, it's always nice to get George Roy Hill, Paul Newman, and Robert Redford working together. So you got a great film. You got a film about these two guys who end up having to work together because something happened, and they're trying to swindle this guy, and they're trying to get paid. That's what we do, right? This movie's fun. It's a great time, great acting, cool story with some good twists and turns in it you don't see coming. You know, I think it won Best Picture. I see why. It's a great film. I had a great time with it. Could recommend this to anyone. I'm going to give The Sting an 8 out of 10. Cabaret, 1972, directed by Bob Fosse. Okay, guys, I'm just going to tell you off the bat this is a top five of the month. And I adored this film on levels that you wouldn't believe. First of all, let's talk about the director. This guy is one of the most talented guys maybe to ever exist. The choreography, the music, the story, the writing, the direction, the everything works about this film. Everything. Liza Minnelli was absolutely terrific. I fell in love with this woman watching this movie. She was incredible. The music was so fun. The dance numbers were just insane. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The vibe of this movie is everything. It's right up my alley. This is my type of movie. If you guys, I know you probably don't care about me as a guy. You just listen to me ramble about movies, but me as a guy, this is the kind of film that kind of resonates and touches me. This film has a great real story going on to it. This isn't just a run of the mill musical with a bunch of weird music numbers thrown in at random parts. All of it makes sense and it all progresses the story forward. And I just absolutely adored this. I thought this was one of the best things I had ever seen. So, having said that, I already told you it's top five of the month. I would recommend Cabaret to any person walking this earth. I'm going to give Cabaret a perfect 10. Green Street Hooligans, 2005, directed by Alexi Alexander. Okay, this movie, I had known about this movie forever, but it was just hard to obtain and I never got to see it. It stars Charlie Hunnam, Jax from Sons of Anarchy, and you got Elijah Wood, Frodo from Lord of the Rings. So, I like Charlie Hunnam. I don't really like Elijah Wood much. He gets on my nerves in almost everything he's in, except maybe The Faculty. And this movie, it's a British movie, and it kind of the feel of this movie is weird. This movie is strange, but not because of what's happening or anything. It's just the vibe of the movie strange. But it is a decent film. It's way better than I expected. It's about a guy who gets thrown out of Harvard who ends up moving to London for a little bit, meeting up with these guys and kind of becoming a part of something much bigger than himself. And he learns a lot and grows a lot during this time. And it's a cool buddy up movie. It's a bro out movie, but it does have a heartfelt message and story to it. And I ain't gonna lie, I had a little tear in my eye at the end. I was like, what? I will say it was far better than I expected it to be, and it's probably better than it should be. So I would recommend this to, just about anybody. So I'm gonna give Green Street Hooligans a 7.3 out of 10. All That Jazz, 1979, directed by Bob Fosse. Okay, I was just talking about this guy with Cabaret. Well, my man struck gold twice, okay? All That Jazz is one of the best things I've ever seen. I didn't I didn't think he would be able to hit the same beats that Cabaret did. I didn't think he'd be able to match the energy, but somehow this guy did. All That Jazz is so incredible. Roy Scheider gives a freaking performance of a lifetime. Dude, okay. This film, just like Cabaret, it doesn't really feel like a musical. It's like a good story that has music in it sometimes, but the music is kind of just it fits in with real life. It's not a random dance number that's happening in the middle of a restaurant. Like the music's at a dance club where you would hear music. It feels very grounded in reality where most musicals don't. And I think that's what I love about this guy's approach to musicals. This film is basically an autobiography of his life. And I could totally see this guy being exactly how he was in this film, based on his art and the way he presents his what he does. He's a great playwright. He's a great director. He's a great screenwriter. He's a great dancer, choreographer. I mean, when you got this many talents, man, you're gonna be a certain type of way. And I love that he explored that within himself and could poke fun at himself enough to really show us something real and raw and gritty. And I just absolutely love this movie, and I think it's one of the best musicals ever made. So, having said all that jazz is a top 5 of the month, and I'm going to give all that jazz upon going over it again and again and again in my head and replaying it. I'm gonna give all that jazz a perfect 10. Memories of Murder, 2003, directed by Bong Joon-ho. All right, you got one of the best directors out of Korea and one of the best actors out of Korea with Song Kang-ho, another film of his I watched this month. This was an incredible murder mystery that is kind of disturbing, kind of funny, and it's gonna leave you empty at the end. But my lord, this is one I would absolutely recommend. You know, ladies, unfortunately, this is a tough one probably for you to watch, but it is very good. Bong Joon-ho, as usual, coming with fire. So I'm gonna give Memories of Murder an 8.5 out of 10. Thief, 1981, directed by Michael Mann. Well, talk about style here. This movie has a style to it that I just adored. Got the 80s vibe, the electro synth pop score, the dope lights, everything works in here. Um, it's a story about a guy who he's a professional thief and he's got a cover life and all that, but he's trying to get out because it's time for him to move on and be with his family. And of course, the streets don't want him to. The story isn't anything that you haven't seen before. You watch this movie for the style. Michael Mann, this has to be, I think, his most stylized movie I've ever seen from him. I really enjoyed the vibe this movie put me in. This movie put me right in 1981. It made me feel like I was just chilling there and just, going along with this. And I really like, there is something about moods in films. A film doesn't have to be the best film ever, have the most, grabbing story or make you cry or make you mad or make you feel any type of way like that. It doesn't need to make you laugh a lot or anything for it to be effective. And escapism. And Thief is an example of escapism at its finest because it's almost like it's almost like meditating watching a film like this. Even though it's violent and stuff is happening in it. This movie is weirdly enough put me in a meditative state that I absolutely love. So Thief is a film, I don't know if it's for everyone, but I definitely think if you're an 80s fan, this is something you should watch. So I'm going to give Thief a 7.6 out of 10. The Holdovers, 2023, directed by Alexander Payne. This was another one that was really close to making the top 5 of the month. This is a new film, and I am very impressed. Alexander Payne is back to form. He made one of my favorite movies many years ago called Election, and my man's is back with another banger. Um, and I think this movie is up there with Election. Now, The Descendants was a good film he did about 10 or 11 years ago. But he hasn't hit hard, since honestly, I don't think since Election like he has with this one. The Holdovers is a great film it's a Christmas movie actually. So this is a great film to watch now. It's a Christmas movie about a man who teaches at a prep school and he has to essentially stay behind and babysit the holdovers who can't make it home for Christmas. Now, this boarding prep school, it's prestigious. It costs money to go to. And, these kids are a certain type of way. And so are the administration. And this film is a great bonding story. It's a family film, but it also is an Alexander Payne film. It's funny. It's got some dark, raunchy humor. It's got grittiness to it that, you know, a lot of films won't go there, and that's one thing I love about Alexander Payne, and one thing I really loved about this movie. I thought Paul Giamatti gave an Oscar-worthy performance, and I look forward to seeing him on the nominees list because I wholeheartedly believe he will be getting nominated for this role. Movie put a little bit of water in the eyes at the end, and you know, it was really hard to leave this off the top 5, but the 5 that I picked, I just couldn't shake. And I can't wait to watch this again. I may watch this even again before the month ends, you know, for another good Christmas watch. So, having said that, I would recommend this movie to everyone on this planet, especially this holiday season. And I'm going to give The Holdovers a 9 out of 10. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. 2023, directed by Kelly Freeman Craig. All right, Are You There, God? This is a film, a coming of age story about a young middle schooler who moves from New York to New Jersey and is starting a fresh new life. And, you know, it's just a nice coming of age story that is typical, set in 1970. Um, and when I say typical, hold on. I don't mean typical in like a bad way, like it was unoriginal or anything, but it's the kind of coming of age story you want for this type of setting and these types of characters, is what I mean by typical. So don't go into it thinking you're just going to see some cookie cutter film. No, it was actually a very great film. And my girl Rachel McAdams is giving a great performance. She is just a gem. She still is incredible. She looks so good in this movie. I adored her so much. She really brought that character to life. It's nice to see her, you know, growing into her later years as an actress, playing these great mom roles and things like that, and you know, transitioning nicely into the latter part of her career. I think that is great, and I think she's still got a great future for her. So, you know, go ahead, Rachel McAdams. So, with that said, I would recommend this movie to anyone, especially any young kids, young ladies out there, you know, who are struggling with finding themselves and things like that, who are young, you know, not teenagers, you know, more I'm talking more between like 10 to like 13 or so. Um, Great film. I'm gonna give Are You There, God 7.7 out of 10. Last but not least, Ombre, 1967, directed by Martin Ritt. Another Paul Newman movie. I'm a big Paul Newman fan. He's one of my faves from back in the day. This film is about a white man who lived his life with the Apache Indians, and he's kind of adopted their ways and their mentalities and morality. And he had turns of events puts him back into the world of white men, and he's trying to readjust and, you know, keep himself alive and accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Ombre is a great time. I had a great time with it. If you're a Western fan, this is definitely something you would enjoy. I had a great time with it, actually. It's a nice, subdued role from Paul Newman, something different from him. We actually don't hear him speak that much. He honestly was channeling his inner Clint Eastwood in this film. So I'm going to give Ombre 7.6 out of 10. And yes, I would recommend this to anyone. Guys, if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching my Everything I Watched in November. If there is a film or topic you'd like me to review or discuss, just let me know in the comments. I have no problems doing that for you. Guys, please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out. I appreciate it. I got a podcast with my buddy, The Cutting Room Floor. I'll link that down below if you're interested in more movie content. Follow me on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. I'll also link that down below for you. Guys, I'll be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.